Hey everybody, I'm gonna have to go back and check this video. Hopefully the background noise won't be too bad. I'm driving here in the middle of South Carolina. I can't get no radio stations in, and I'm really irked by Mittens. Yeah, Romney. I call him Mittens. You know, he wouldn't take his gloves off to swing at Obama, but he's quick enough to take his gloves off to swing at the Republican frontrunner. And I'm a Democrat, which you know, but you know, that's just. But I'm also a liberal. I'm not a progressive. You know, we've been through all this, so you know it's. But you know, yeah, Mittens is really, it's just really irking me. I mean, you know, you want to talk about Trump's policies? Fine, we can talk about Trump's policies. You know, especially you know when we get it down to Trump or Cruz. Because I'm willing to support either one of them. I'm not going to support Rubio, because I'm not going to support anyone from the establishment. I'm not going to support Clinton, because I'm not going to support anybody from the establishment. I'm not going to support Bernie, because I'm sure as hell not going to support a communist. So, we got Trump or Cruz. We got to get it down to Trump or Cruz. And the establishment actually calls out Mittens so that they can try to knock Trump down because they think they have a better chance with Rubio against Cruz, which I'm not really sure about that. I'm not sure how that would fall. I mean, I think if they took Cruz out, they know they can't take Cruz out, because if they took Cruz out, they know a lot of the Cruz supporters are going to go to Trump, because Cruz and Trump have the majority of the votes, have the majority of the delegates, and the reason for this is that they're both the outsiders. Now, what happens between, like I said, what happened between Cruz and Trump, that's definitely up in the air. That's a definite, that, I don't know. Can Rubio beat Cruz? That's iffy. He might. That's iffy. Can Rubio beat Trump? No. He's got a better chance to beat Cruz than he does to beat Trump. And then, if you take Trump out the picture, then you might be able to get more people behind Kasich and Rubio, which would then make it easier to take Cruz out. So, you know, this is the establishment plan there. So that's why I'm all for, you know, no matter what, Trump has got to stay in, and Cruz has got to stay in. When it comes down to Cruz or Trump, I'm for Trump, by the way, but when it comes down to Cruz or Trump, then you can take the Mittens, you take the gloves off, and you can go for that battle there. And if it winds up being Cruz, I'll stand behind Cruz, because we can't deal with 16 more years of the crap that we've been dealing with. Whether you want to call it Bush light or Obama light, the first 8 years and last 8 years have been just a light carbon copy of the other, one way or the other. Some people would say that it's a Bush light that we've had the last 8 years. Other people would say that it was an Obama light that we had the first 8 years. Either way, it was all establishment. And if you put Clinton in there, it's just going to be another 8 years of establishment. You put Rubio in there, it's just going to be another 8 years of establishment. So, no. We got to make sure that we got to stand up to the establishment. But, you know, there's something we got to point out here. I find it really funny the way the establishment's going after, they're not going after Trump very much on substance. Because in reality, there are differences between Trump and Cruz, but neither of them are the establishment. Both of them are anti-establishment. Both of them want anti-Obama. They want anti-Bush. They want anti-Rubio. They want anti-Clinton. So either of them are better than where we have been for the last 16 years. So, what are they doing? They're going after Trump on his business record, which I find this hilarious because they're obviously not very well educated. Can they show that Trump has lots of business failures? Yeah, of course. But still, they're not very well educated. Why do I say this? Well, I bring this up because of our very first president. What they're afraid of is leadership. What's that got to do with our very first president? Well, there's a number of you that unfortunately, due to your government education, do not know what a lousy war leader Washington was. He was a great leader. He held the troops together, and that's what won the war. But what you do not know is when it came to fighting the battles, he had a lousy record. He lost many, many, many more battles than he won. I mean, you got this little stack of wins and this big stack of losses. Many of you don't know that. But he was a leader, so he held the troops together. Why is this relevant? Because holding the troops together decreased morale over in England. Well, why is that relevant? Because by decreasing the morale over there in England, they were beaten down on all the merchants, which eventually, once we got France involved and we got Spain involved as our allies, then it took it down even a notch further. So you had all the merchants saying, we can't afford to make no trade. We can't afford to take anything over there to the British troops. So we can't afford this anymore. We can't keep doing this. And it was the merchants that won the war for America. But you don't know this because you're not properly educated anymore. I was taught this in school. You weren't. Most of you weren't. Any of you under 40 weren't. You were not. Any of you under 30, you probably weren't even taught this in college. But it was the merchants in England that won the war for us over here in America. Well, scratching your head, right? Well, here's the deal. At the time of the Civil War, by Washington being a great leader and holding the troops together, despite all his losses, like Trump, business failures, Washington, multiple losses. But what did his leadership skills bring in? They kept the troops together. Keeping the troops together, they kept fighting the British. By fighting the British, that gave the Navy from France and Spain the initiative to say, okay, we'll back you on this. And then they started fighting and they're attacking all the merchant ships. So in the end, because all the merchant ships are being attacked, all the merchants, they kept putting out these pamphlets and these letters and these newsletters and once it got to London, that was it. The war was over. Just like, basically our Vietnam was their Civil War. Or their Revolutionary War. I'm sorry, not Civil War, Revolutionary War. It came down to the politics of the war. And so, they all got together and they kept saying, why are we fighting this war? What are we doing this for? What do they produce in America? They don't produce nothing. We've been fighting them for 10 years over taxes, and they made it clear they're not going to pay the taxes, and we keep fighting them. And it's costing us 600 times more of the insurance now to fund the war, to get our merchant ships over there, which most of them aren't making it, than what it is if we just say, okay, let them take America, and then we sell our goods to them, and we're going to be all prosper from this. Where are they going to buy their goods from? What do you think, they're going to spend the money on high-priced French perfumes? No, they're going to buy our perfumes. They're going to buy our linens. They're going to buy our iron goods. They're going to buy everything from us. Everything's going to come through us. And in the backside, we can put invisible taxes in it. So that's really what happened. That's why we won the Revolutionary War. We didn't win the Revolutionary War because George Washington was a great warrior. He wasn't a great warrior. He was a great leader. He was able to hold everybody together despite all the losses. He was able to hold people together. That's leadership. That's what we see in Trump. People see leadership in Trump. His failures decide. That doesn't matter. He knows how to lead a company, which means, you know, people see that and they see the way, and even still, even with his campaigning, people go in and they see what he's doing with it. He knows how to lead. I mean, he's got well-refined oil machinery going. He's doing things on a small budget to the scale. If Hillary Clinton could run something on the budget, that if she could run even a grassroots campaign on the budget that Trump is running a national campaign on, she'd have half a fighting chance of beating him. She ain't gonna beat him. We know that. Of course, you know, the establishment, they want you to think that she's gonna beat him. She ain't beating him. I mean, come on, think about it. How many Americans trust Hillary Clinton? A third of those that trust Trump, maybe? I mean, think about that. And then on top of all that, she's probably going to be indicted. She's probably not going to be, I mean, once she gets indicted, that's it. Her campaign is over. And the things that are going to come out now that, you know, they gave this guy immunity, I mean, we all know that the Clintons have kept that well tight under wraps, but I'm sure that, you know, she's slipped. As long as they ask the right questions, they're going to find the answers, because I'm sure she's slipped at least once and asked a question not thinking, or Wiener's wife asked a question not thinking. Somebody somewhere slipped and asked a question, and because of that question is going to be a very incriminating. So, you know, that guy getting the fifth, that's a big deal. But like I said, that's what the establishment's afraid of. They're afraid of a real leader. And Cruz, you know, like I said, Cruz, the problem with Cruz, I mean, if it comes down to Cruz or Trump, Cruz has a pretty good chance. The problem with Cruz is that you have two different kinds of conservatives. You have fiscal conservatives and you have evangelical conservatives. Actually, you have a lot more conservatives than that, but that's the majority of conservatives. Now, for the evangelical conservatives, Cruz is the choice. For the fiscal conservatives, Trump is the choice. For the rest of the conservatives, they're going to kind of split between them. And when it comes down to Rubio and Cruz, this is where Cruz runs into a problem. Because I have nothing against the guy with his religious views. People should have a religious view. The problem is, unlike Reagan, when Cruz gets up there, it's like watching a sermon. You know, there was no... I mean, we all know that Reagan, I mean, despite being one of the greatest liberal presidents of all time, you know, Reagan, Coolidge, and JFK, the three greatest liberal presidents of... Probably the only three liberal presidents of the whole since... I don't know when, but definitely the last century. Again, if you're properly educated, you understand what a liberal is, you understand what a progressive is, you understand what a conservative is, and you understand what a socialist is, and you understand what a communist is. And so you realize these are all different. You're not the uneducated masses that don't understand that. So, if you don't understand, then go read a book and you'll see there's very big differences between all these between all those political definitions. But that's why I keep referring to the three of them as liberals. And that's why I refer to them all the time as the only three liberal presidents of the last century. But Reagan had very conservative personal values. And it showed when he made speeches. Of course it showed, because they were strong. But the problem is that, you know, he didn't bring them into his politics intentionally. Whereas Cruz brings them into his politics intentionally. And unfortunately, to some Republicans, that is a turnoff. To many moderates, that's a turnoff. To many liberals, that's a turnoff. And it's not that any of us aren't religious. It's just we don't want to see it in our politics, because we separate our politics in our religion. especially moderates and liberals and fiscal conservatives, even moderate conservatives. Most people in politics, they separate religion and politics. When they go to church, they understand that they're going to hear a little bit of speak about politics, but they don't want to go to church and hear the reverend talking about this politician and that politician and that politician for the whole sermon. A little bit is fine, but not the whole sermon. The same thing when someone's up there and they're speaking politics. They don't want to hear someone that every other line sounds like a sermon, so that they're listening to 70% sermon and 30% politics. That isn't what they want to hear. So that's why Cruz, that's the problem with Cruz when it comes to Cruz and Rubio. And the establishment knows this. So, you know, we all got to stick together. It doesn't matter whether you're for Team Cruz or you're for Team Trump. When you know, when Mittens is up there, that's all bull. It's all bull. It's all pasture pies. You know, pastures, fields. It's all pasture pies. That's what that is. So, yeah, I'm really irritated by Mittens. And even the whole thing with Christie. I mean, that backfired on him. Why do you think Christie looked like he was being held hostage up there? Of course he was being held hostage. He's being held hostage because the whole plan, the establishment said, listen, we need you to take a bullet for the team. You take the bullet for the team, we'll make you a VP, or, you know, we'll give you something high on the cap. Maybe we'll make you a, maybe Attorney General, you know. But they figured that, you know, by making an establishment guy back Trump, that was going to look bad on Trump. Because Trump has admitted he paid for politicians, which, well, let's face it, anybody who's in business, they pay politicians. I mean, think about it. Even if you're a small town business owner, are you going to back the mayor that you think's going to win? Are you, when you back that mayor and he wins, are you going to go to him and ask him for a favor? When, you know, say, hey, listen, we're having a grand opening or we're having a grand reopening. Can you come cut a ribbon? Of course you're going to ask him for a favor. And you're going to expect a payment on that favor because you paid him off. Well, you didn't pay him off, but, you know, you contributed. That's the way politics works. So, of course, Trump had, you know, yes, of course he's going to make contributions to the ones that are pretty much shoo-ins. I mean, think about it. People, unfortunately, in politics have short memories. I've said this all along. That's something I've always complained about in politics. People have short memories in politics. That's why they always re-elect the people that they know are screwing things up. Even in New York. I'm born in New Jersey, but I lived a better part of my adult life in New York. Pretty much, you know, my whole adolescence through my adults, I lived in New York. And, you know, my whole time in New York, I don't think the budget was ever passed on time. Yet year after year, everybody kept re-electing their lawmakers that can't pass a budget on time. And year after year, they complain about the lawmakers not paying a budget on time. And what happens come election? Memory loss syndrome kicks in. Short memories. And they just go and they push the button for the name they know. So, this is why people like Donald Trump donate to people that even if it's not completely with his ideology. And then they're trying to say he's got connections with the mob. You realize this guy's a developer, right? A real estate developer? What are the mob best known for having their hands in? Sanitation and unions. What is almost every construction worker in New Jersey part of? The union. What is a lot of construction workers in New York part of? The union. What are most carpenters a part of? The union. Plumbers, the union. Electricians, the union. Steel workers, the union. Welders, the union. Do you see where this is going? So, you know what? I've worked in sanitation. I worked in sanitation for a long time. I actually worked in sanitation with a guy that had mob ties way back in the day. I got mob ties. If I ran for some kind of political office, you could prove that I have mob ties. I've never done any dealings with the mob, but I got ties to the mob. I was part of a union. I got ties to a mob. I mean, there's all kinds of ways you can tie people to the mob. I mean, so someone as big as Trump, he's going to have even easier ties to the mob than me. I mean, mine are going to be through the union. His is going to be dealing through the union. And because he's dealing with higher-ups in the union, his mob ties are going to be even tighter than my mob ties. But there's mob ties. Anybody who worked in a union in New York has ties to the mob. Anyone who worked in sanitation in New York, almost anyone, there's a couple sanitation, but almost anyone who worked in sanitation in New York has ties to the mob. Almost anybody who worked in even highway construction, you had ties to the mob. They might be loose ties, but they're ties. You can be connected to the mob. They can draw dots and they can connect them. So, you know, this whole thing with the establishment, with all this attack. No, we cannot let the establishment win. If you let the establishment win, you're just voting for another 16 years of what we've had. You're voting for another unlawful Patriot Act or another unlawful Obamacare. You're voting for more of the NSA. You're voting for more intrusion into your personal information. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, and that's all you're voting for. We need someone who's going to go in there and change things. We need someone who's going to go in there and just throw a wrench in the gears, and it's going to be all done. And if you listen to the establishment and you back Rubio or you back Kasich, that's all you're doing. You're voting for another 8 years plus of the last 16 years that we've had. Yeah, that's all I got to say on that matter. But I just wanted to vent a little bit. Like I said, I'm stuck out here in the middle of South Carolina. No radio stations will come in. So it gave me just everything turning in my head and got me thinking. And then, you know, I got thinking about Romney bashing on Trump for his failures, and then I got thinking about Washington, and then the light bulb kind of went off. It's like I said, you can have more failures than successes and still be a great leader. And if there's anybody we can take that lesson from, it's Washington. Washington is the best lesson you'll ever take that from. Because like I said, victories, losses. It's just the way it is. Still, because he was a great leader, then losses didn't hurt. He was able to hold everybody together, and in the end he won. And same with Trump. Just because he's got failures doesn't mean he can't be a leader. Same with Cruz. Just because he's got you can find failings in him, doesn't mean he won't be a great leader. Even though you can find things that you don't like about him, doesn't mean that, you know, I'm more for Team Trump than I am for Team Cruz, but I'm willing to support Team Cruz. But a vote for Rubio or Kasich might as well just be a vote for Hillary. Or a vote for, just another vote for the last 16 years. It's just that simple. I don't know how else to put it. It's just that simple. Okay, thanks.